This is Tammy Dobruns from Master Control at WPLG TV in South Florida. I've been here for 33 years and you are watching the NAB show live.
Live from Las Vegas, this is NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat. Here's your host, Janet West.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the last of my NAB Show Lives. Have we all had a good show? Yes. Yeah? Your feet aren't too tired? Okay. On behalf of Broadcast Beat, I welcome you to the session on where is broadcasting going. Now, the broadcasting industry seems to be in a race to get somewhere. So what I'm going to try and do this morning is to guide my guests into sharing where they think it's trying to go. So I've got three delightful guests, and I'm going to start with James Gilbert from Pixel Power, Ian Cockett from Peckham Beach Systems, and Steve Reynolds from Imagine Communications. Now, Steve Reynolds has more than 20 years of technology leadership in the cable industry. Prior to Imagine Communications, he served as Vice President of Premises Technology and Comcast and Open TV Incorporated. And Steve serves as chairman of the Alliance for IP Media. And moving on to my next guest is James Gilbert, who is CEO and co-founder of Pixel Power. This is a media entertainment technology provider for master control, channel branding, and both traditional and IP-based broadcast playout. James is an active member of SIMPT, IET, and RTS, and has recently been voted chairman of the board of IABM. Congratulations. Okay, that's great. And then we move on to Ian, who is the founder, one of the founding directors, I should say, of Pebble Beach Systems. Now, having worked on software projects in the broadcast industry for over 25 years, he's been instrumental in the development and implementation of the company's range of automation and channel-in-a-box products at broadcasters and service providers around the world. He was previously technical manager at Louth Automation, and prior to that worked at Logica. And he's worked as a consultant for many companies, and even the Walt Disney Company. Ian's well known for his practical knowledge, detailed insight, and unique problem-solving capability. Right, let's start with you, Steve. Does the broadcast business know where it's going?
Well, I think we do. There's a lot of momentum in the industry right now to start transitioning towards IP.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that we're moving towards that swap out of SDI towards IP is really driven by the need to be able to support new production methodologies and to be able to support native delivery to IP-based platforms. The thing that's really driving a lot of activity on the consumer side right now is the desire to be able to consume content on IP endpoint devices.
Yeah.
And moving broadcast towards a native IP workflow from end to end, all the way out to those devices, really gives us a lot of power, a lot of flexibility, and a lot of agility in terms of how fast we can launch new services, launch new channels, and support new devices.
Hey, Ian, do you think the industry knows where it's going, or they're just following the big guys?
I think it does. I would agree with Steve. I think the transition from proprietary hardware to standard off-the-shelf hardware and video and audio processing that was done in hardware is moving ever faster to software and off-the-shelf software solutions. So I think it does know where it's going. I think there are other questions in the industry, and the industry seems to be fighting itself with is it about push or about pull? Is linear TV dying, and is the future going to be an OTT? But I think pretty much they're complementary. I think we'll see both of them, and I think we see that premium content providers are going to want to promote their products and their content in all available platforms. And one of the things the new technology allows us to do is have many more endpoint devices, many more ways of consuming that media. So I think it does know where it's going, but sometimes it seems to kind of fight itself and trying to reinvent itself. But I think it's a natural evolution of what's been going on for a lot of years.
Okay, James, do you agree with that?
Yes, I think so. I think what we see certainly is that many manufacturers are taking on roles outside their original, from where they came from, and are providing solutions to provide end-to-end capability for customers. But I think it's also important to remember that customers like to have best-of-breed solutions, so the ability to have interoperable solutions, whether software-defined or virtualizable. I think it's important that we still allow the customer base to choose best-of-breed across the board.
Now, I heard, James, that you said we have to think different. What do you mean by that?
I think there's been a lot of talk about exchanging SDI cable for IP, but I think the real thing that's happening is the move to software-defined solutions, the move to virtualized solutions, because that gives our customers great flexibility in how they deploy, where they deploy, and as Steve was saying, it gives flexibility to do short pop-up channels and so on. I think it's also important to not lose sight of what makes a good broadcast brand. And graphics and branding is very important to that, and it's important not to lose those things when you move to these alternative delivery methods. You don't want to compromise your OTT content by not having the branding and graphics that put your channel right at the forefront of your consumer and your customer.
Okay, so are we in a revolution of swapping SDI for IP, or are we simply looking to enable a more interconnected media industry? Steve?
I think we are kind of at that revolution point. The power that you get from that move to IP, it's not just about replacing the SDI. We're not using IP technology to try to simply recreate everything that we have today with a different kind of cable. The real reason we want to move towards IP is because of all of the additional things that it enables. New workflows, new production technologies, and in fact, even faster adoption of things as they come along. So, for example, the move towards 4K and everything that we want to do with high dynamic range and high color, those things may be more easily implemented in IP than they would have been if we had to do massive infrastructure rebuilds of the entire SDI core. So it's going to let us move faster, and that's why I think there really is a bit of a revolution going on right now.
Okay, would you like to comment on that, Ian?
Yeah, I think probably we see it more of an evolution rather than a revolution, in that, you know, a lot of the processes and the technologies that are enabling the move to IP have been going on for quite some time. And I think, as James said, maybe the think different is not maybe to be quite so obsessive about IP in and out. I think we need to think about designing systems in different ways and not building huge long chains of separate processing devices that all have IP in and out. It's a pretty inefficient way of doing it.
Yeah.
So people who have really market-leading skills in terms of graphics, for example, I think we'll see more of them producing components that other people can use, software components that other people can integrate into their software, rather than having a whole ugly chain of boxes. So I think the think different is maybe, you know, that special sauce that people have in their intellectual property needs to become more of, you know, reusable software components that everybody can integrate with and make use of.
Now, I was talking to one manufacturer a couple of days ago. He was a product manager, and he goes, "Janet, who's driving this industry? I can't figure it out. We all kind of go along." I'd like you guys to tell me who's driving the industry this way.
Well, I think there's a couple of initiatives going on, especially with regards to this migration towards IP.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, I'm the vice chairman of the AIMS Alliance. So
Yeah.
we really started that alliance, the Alliance for IP Media Solutions, to solve exactly that problem. There were concerns among the manufacturers that there was going to be fragmentation, that there were going to be, every manufacturer would have their own approach on how to do IP and how to manage their entire broadcast chain in that kind of an environment. And that doesn't work. We have to work together. We have to rally around common standards. We've got to have open interoperability. And that's why AIMS decided that we really wanted to adopt the roadmap that had been set forth by the work done in the VSF. 75 companies got together and worked out standards for interoperability for IP production and came up with a great solution. And that's why we started the AIMS Alliance. And I think it's things like that that are establishing leadership and really moving the entire industry forward.
Okay. Steve, for those people in the audience and viewing at home who don't know what the AIMS Alliance is, would you just briefly tell us?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, so it is a trade organization. It was founded as a not-for-profit alliance of manufacturers and users of IP technology within the broadcast industry. So it was originally founded by Imagine Communications, Grass Valley, and Lavo. We now have over 30 members. Just here at the show, we announced that VizRT, Evertz, 21st Century Fox, and a number of other companies have joined the alliance to really try to build momentum behind the adoption of these IP standards.
Okay, thanks for that. That helped me understand that as well. Are we going to see a major disruption like we've seen in telecoms? And let's say 5 years from now, what's the environment going to look like, telecoms versus broadcasters?
I think it's something that has struck me at this NAB is we've seen with the collapse of the channel chain from multiple boxes into single boxes into software virtualized solutions, and manufacturers who had any piece of that are now trying to do more of it to provide a total solution. We're seeing the telco providers who have the infrastructure, they have the network, they have the fiber. They're interested in making use of that connectivity to provide total service to broadcasters. So they're looking at building out infrastructure, building data centers, using their data centers with these software solutions to actually provide an end-to-end solution. So that's going to be quite disruptive, I think, and I just hope there are enough customers to go around, really. I think that's...
Yeah, I think certainly, I think we noticed in 2015, we started to see a segmentation of the market. So if you look back over 5, 10, 15, 20 years, the technology that all the customers in the industry were using was the same, whether they were a national broadcaster with a few channels or whether they were a service provider with hundreds of channels. Fundamentally, they were using SDI, they were using video routers, and what we're starting to see, I think, is a segmentation. There will still be people who want that technology, but there's a drive really for truly IT solutions being driven by people who need agility and flexibility, and there are people who are just not going to build systems in the traditional way, and so we're going to start to see almost a real segmentation, and people having different products for broadcasters who want to work in the traditional way in baseband video, and people who want to put everything in a data center and treat their broadcast chains as a purely software-defined IT system. So I think we are seeing probably the first time, certainly in my career, where really there's a very marked sort of separation and segmentation in the industry.
Okay.
But it's that migration towards off-the-shelf hardware platforms. So whether it's compute or networking or storage, the ability to really leverage that broader enterprise market, right, and pull things in that were built for the internet, which is a much larger economy than what we have in the broadcast industry, and really leverage a lot of the innovation and the power that gets built into those off-the-shelf platforms. That's beneficial for us. We want to be able to do that. What the broadcast industry brings to that equation, though, is the specialized knowledge that people in the TV industry have about how does production work and how does video work and how do the workflows get constructed in order to produce both live and file-based television. And so there's an interesting blend that's going on right now where we're bringing IT knowledge and IT expertise and matching that up with the knowledge about the use cases and the production methodologies and of television as well, and bringing those two things together to really build a very powerful platform.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we talk a bit about workflow, and I'm glad Steve's brought that up, because it's all very well having this great new technology and using commoditized IT and IP networks, but there's also an onus on the broadcasters to be open to new workflows and new ways of working, because if they're going to get the best out of the new technologies, out of virtualization, there will be a need to evolve and develop new workflows to match what the technology can provide. Otherwise, you're going to compromise what can be achieved.
Yeah, I think the technology alone isn't actually going to provide, those economies. If the workflows are not correct and properly implemented, then you're not actually going to achieve the benefit.
Well, I think the real key there is that we don't want to use tomorrow's technology to make the same mistakes that we've made in the past, right? We want to use tomorrow's technology to build something bigger and better. And you're exactly right. That means we've got to be open-minded about how we're going to shape the workflows.
Yeah. And I think also that we need to look at other industries, because in some ways broadcast is playing catch-up. The telcos and finance have been using large-scale virtualization for many years. So nobody really knows. If you look at banks or whatever, nobody knows where their bank balance exists. It's somewhere in the cloud, and yet broadcasters are very obsessive about where their physical content is located. And other industries have already, they're far ahead in terms of the way they're using the technology.
And a broadcast is going to be slower because they've got the traditional infrastructure, and therefore the transition is a lot more difficult.
I think they've got traditional workflows, and I think the workflow practices, the television industry employs a lot of people who do very specific and skilled tasks in how a show is put together, how it's produced, and to transition and educate those people to move to a completely different way of working is going to take, I think, longer than the technologists would have you believe. I think there is a debate to be had about, there is no question that the industry is going to IP virtualized solutions. That's a given. I think the big debate is how quickly is that going to happen? And I think, there's quite a wide range of possibilities there. And
I'm sorry, please.
I think different manufacturers have different ideas, but I think we have to also help our customers through that transition, so from SDI to IP to virtualized, and be there to support them through that at whatever pace their workflow evolution allows them to go.
Right. You have a comment, Steve.
We're talking a lot about the technology that the platform is built on top of, right? Whether it's IP networking or COTS hardware, and there's no doubt that evolution is happening, but I think there's also an evolution happening on the workflow side as we move away from the workflows that were really built around the hardware, and a lot of them were. I mean, a lot of the workflows we have today were built around how does the production switcher work, or how does master control work, and we're moving that to a more software-defined model as well. So you start to see some of these software-defined workflow tools that give you the same kind of agility within that workflow definition that we're also seeing on the hardware side, so that they're both moving forward at the same time. The platform is evolving and the tools are evolving, and I think the point about training of the people that actually run these systems is an important one too. There's a mind shift change that has to happen there as people become more agile in terms of how they're actually using all of those tools and technologies.
So is it a really different skill set that they need?
I don't know if it's a really different skill set. I think it's a different way of thinking about it though. You've got to embrace this notion that the workflow can be agile. It doesn't have to stay the same. You actually have tools now that allow you to evolve your workflow, make it more efficient, and make it better suited to all of the different kinds of delivery that we're going to see.
Yeah. Now, many of your customers want to increase revenue, find new revenue streams, and use this new technology. Have we got enough customers for them, and are there going to be some falling by the wayside?
Well, so consumers in the end will decide, what they want to watch and what device they want to watch it on and where they want to watch it. But I think the statistics are undeniable. People are watching more television and they are watching more video today than they did last year. And that number actually grows year over year. The number of hours of television consumption on a per person, per day basis consistently goes up. So, I think that growth curve continues to move in that direction, especially as we give them the ability to consume wherever they are.
But we've got a fundamental problem. We've only got 24 hours in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, if you read my article in Broadcast Beat, how much time we spend commuting, and yes, you can look at a mobile device while you're computing, but we've got a finite number of hours that people can consume, and therefore it can't continue.
No, of course.
There are more people. Every year there are more people doing that consuming.
So it'll be new markets then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there are more people who have access to the internet now than last year, and that will continue to grow. So I
Okay.
think it's not just the hours in the day. You've got a growing population, you've got growing accessibility to higher bandwidth connectivity to deliver those channels.
Yeah.
And I think all of those different ways of consuming media, mean that broadcasters are looking at dealing with those other distribution channels and giving them higher priority, because there are more eyeballs sat there when they're commuting, looking at their mobile devices. So I think we'll see, more attention given to, the quality of the content that people provide on their OTT platforms, and broadcasters kind of dealing with all of their distribution channels, in a more equal way, rather than it being a poor relation. So I think they will.
I think the other thing that is interesting that the technology can provide is a whole new type of broadcast delivery channel. What the technology enables is a much lower cost launch and delivery of a channel, which means you could see some niche channels appearing that weren't previously financially viable. And ultimately that goes down to your personal TV. Your personal TV channel, it learns what you like and it presents your own schedule of content that it knows will be of interest to you. And I think that's one of the things that the new technology and software virtualization can deliver.
Well, I think that's one of the great things, the ability to pop up channels. So, rather than have to select on your red button between, 3 or 4 different tennis games at Wimbledon, for example, why not have a channel for every one of 24 tennis courts? Because the technology is here today and is currently, we're in the process of rolling out systems that can pop up channels that would previously take
Ian,
months.
We've run out of time. This has been a really interesting discussion, but we're going to carry on the discussion after the break. I'd like to thank my guests, Steve Reynolds from Imagine Communications, Ian Cockett from Pebble Beach Systems, and James Gilbert from Pixel Power. Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you for watching. Come back in 5.
Hey guys, Nikki with Broadcast Beat Magazine here at the Aspera booth. I'm just looking for my, hey, what's going on? This is Francois Caray. Did I say it correctly?
Pretty good.
Yeah, sorry. He is the Senior Director of Worldwide Marketing here at Aspera. Francois, can you tell me a little bit about the company Aspera and maybe some new products you have here at NAB?
Yeah, absolutely. So Aspera's been in the media industry for the past 10, 11 years. We specialize in moving very, very big data over the internet. So we're helping media companies, and they can be Hollywood studios, post-production houses, they can be broadcasters. We help them move very large content at very long distances at maximum speed. So that's the core of our technology and what we do. Now, on top of that technology that we've built, we now have a number of services, applications, and solutions that address pretty much every file transfer need you may have. But we also do workflow orchestration. We have solutions that run in the cloud if you want to have a service to exchange very large content in the cloud. And we now also started doing streaming.
Cool. And I heard you also have a few partner integrations in the booth in the show, right? You want to explain more?
Yeah, so that's correct. Our technology is very much a core foundational technology. If you need to move large data at maximum speed, you want to use Aspera. So now some of our customers do that directly by buying stuff from us. And then we have a number of partners, actually now about 150, most of which are in the media, entertainment, and broadcast space, that decided to pick Aspera as the transport of choice for their solution. And they can be media asset management companies, they can be providers of security solutions. We recently announced a very cool integration of our streaming technology with Intera. They do automated quality control. And with this new technology, they're able to basically quality control content as it is streaming. So we got a number of really cool integration being displayed on our booth on top of all these new technologies that we're introducing here at the show. Maybe you want to hear about that a little bit?
I would love to hear about that.
Okay. So as far as new things, we're talking about our software as a service platform called Aspera Files. We've talked about it a little bit for the past year. We've teased the service, but now it's basically Aspera as a service. So you don't have to buy the software. You can basically run it as a file exchange service in the cloud. You pay as you go, but it has the scalability and robustness that Aspera is known for. And it is also built on the IBM cloud. We're not part of IBM, by the way. I forgot to mention that. That happened 2 years ago. They have really amazing cloud infrastructure. So it's running on that, and then you can still connect all of your other clouds to it. So if you're a small company or a big company, you can subscribe to Aspera Files, and you can immediately start sharing, distributing extremely large files. I'm talking 4K content. I'm even talking 8K content at maximum speed over the internet. So at NAB, we're talking about the fact that we have 500 clients after just 3 months of its introduction. And that we have some really big players like MLB Advanced Media is using it to provide delivery services to their clients. It's very cool stuff.
But with those big clients, you said it's also it's not too costly for the smaller client as well, correct?
No, you totally have an entry level. So if you're a smaller company, and you also have a seasonality with what you do, you don't necessarily need to buy software and buy equipment. You can basically just subscribe to the service and immediately start sharing content at very, very fast speeds. So aside from Aspera Files, there's a ton of other stuff, and it's very granular, so I'm not going to get into that. But one of the big news at the show is our fast stream server. So obviously streaming is not new, everybody's doing it. You watch
What's streaming? I'm just kidding.
You don't have Netflix?
I'm just kidding.
So, you know, you're used to watching content over the internet. The quality is good. Most people have a really great experience with streaming. Now, that's because you're streaming from very close to you. There's infrastructure in place so that when you're watching Netflix, you're not streaming from the other side of the world, it's very close to you. Now, we're introducing new technology that allows very long distance streaming of very high quality video in live scenarios. And so this takes all of the capabilities of our file transfer technology, applies it to streaming, which means that you can stream full resolution 4K video with negligible startup times, no glitch. And the idea is not necessarily to stream that straight to consumers, but to allow production companies and broadcasters to alleviate some of the cost of expensive satellite uplinks or having to provision fiber circuits, those kind of things. Now you can use the commodity internet to do that with Aspera on top of it.
That's really cool. Is there anything else you want the viewers to know before?
Yeah, I do. If you get a chance to come by our booth here at NAB, we're in South Lower Hall, SL 4910. And you can find all of this information and lots of cool videos as well on our website, asperasoft.com.
Very cool. Make sure you come to South Lower 4910.
That's correct.
Make sure you get here if you haven't gotten here already. This is Nikki with Broadcast Beat Magazine.
I'm Kid Kelly, and you're watching NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat.
Live from Las Vegas, this is NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat. Here's your host, Janet West.
Hey, welcome back, guys. I have had a fantastic week, and this is my last show, so stick with us. We're going to have a really interesting conversation. We started earlier. Where is the industry going? For example, I spoke to one guy, and he said, who's driving the business? So we're trying to get some answers for you guys. It's a pleasure for me. We've got a full house here today. Pleasure for me to introduce Harry Tolan, Director of NextGuard, Pancrazio Altieri from ContentWise, Bob Cornelia from Blackmagic Design, and James Stelflug from EVS. Right. Have you got a crystal ball, Pancrazio? If so, what is it showing you that where's the industry going?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. A crystal ball. We are a data company, so our crystal ball is half powered by data.
Yeah.
Half is powered by cosmic rays, who knows? We see that in broadcasting specifically, we see that where the linear programming is full with the emotion of the uncertain, or the power of synchronized audiences, we see a bright future for linear programming and synchronized audiences. Where this is not there, the linear programming will become a big showcase together with an amazing on-demand offer from broadcasters with their power of feeling the pulse of the society, as well as providing a lot of library content to explain the past to the new generations.
Okay. Harry, where do you think the industry is, what's going to be happening over the next 5 to 10 years? We're going to see some dramatic changes?
I think we've already seen dramatic changes. So my company basically helps content providers protect their premium content. And there we've seen maybe 10 years ago we were especially active in the film market, but now premium content more and more means TV, right? So we all know the AMCs, the HBOs, the Netflix. So there's very powerful original content being created and then also distributed around the world. So sometimes people call this the golden age of TV, and I think there's some truth to this. So in that sense, I think with all of the creativity, the worldwide distribution, the technology, I think there's the next 5 years is going to be very exciting for TV.
Okay. James, are we going to see a slow transition, or are we going to be seeing a dramatic disruption?
I think that, in the industry that we at EBS serve, which is the live sports production and really that execution of content towards the consumers in that space, I think you've already seen a lot of shift on that. I think you have a lot of disruptive technologies that are there right now when we look at IP and the topic around it and where we're going, and that's already been a massive enabler as to how we're creating more dynamic content deliveries towards those consumers, or better content production through collaboration. And now as you see the focused look at infrastructure, you're going to see really a complete rethinking in the way we design and architect facilities based upon the backbone and technologies of IP and the industry. So.
Okay. And Bob, from a camera and all the other products that you have on, these guys are brilliant. They've helped us a lot with equipment for this NAB show live, so I want to thank you.
Happy to help.
But what changes can you see over the next 5 years?
Well, I think what we've seen, obviously there's a lot of 4K production that's starting to come on. When we talk about traditional broadcasting, over-the-air type broadcasting or the cable networks, they're not as quick to adopt to 4K for delivery type issues, but the rest of the the broadcast world, if you will, the Netflix and with internet delivery, or even we just made a new SD card delivery option. The idea being that it's about enabling the masses to do whatever resolution they want at the time. 4K obviously is the big buzz. Who knows what will happen in the future, but for now. We're dedicated to making the products that people really want and that they can get good quality images. And then at the end of the day, it's about telling a better story. So this way they're not hampered by poor equipment. They have good access to good equipment. And then if they can tell a better story, then we're going to get better product at the end.
Bob mentioned that we're going to 4K. 8K is being talked about for the future. Are we making technology for technology's sake, or do we really need it?
I think you see, obviously, the buzzes out there about looking at more resolution is one way to possibly solve the problem or create new immersive experiences, but you also see focus on the quality. You're talking also about high dynamic range, and you're talking about higher frame rates and other wider color gamut. So I think that you have to look at why are you looking to leverage that technology, whether it is looking at 8K for some purpose. I think you have to tell better stories, as you put very well, and how can you best do that? And when you look at live production for us, we have to make sure the tools are correct to tell the story well, because when you look at a cinematic or more of a file-based consumption pattern as a video on demand, that has a different constraint, a different time to market to create that. So I think that the technologies are there, and you're seeing different ways to apply them in different intelligent ways.
Harry, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, so as NextGuard, we have a lot of exposure to premium content because that's what we protect. So we've been working a lot with the studios lately on HDR, and I can tell you, I really believe in that. 8K, I mean, one day it will come, but you probably need an 80-inch screen in your home to really benefit from 8K, so that's maybe a bridge too far, but HDR you can enjoy on your iPad. I mean, so in that sense, I think I really believe in that. And again, I mean, it's just a way, let's say, to help content owners to tell better stories. So I do believe in that, absolutely.
Okay. But if we're going to be going to 8K, 4K is already more energy, more data, 8K is even more. Can we do this in light of environmental constraints in the future?
I think some of the technologies are there as we look at IP as an enabler on that, is that it can give us that flexibility to whatever the standards are in the next step. You know, that we've been constrained by at many of the intervals and steps of infrastructure design and rollouts. So who knows what it will be, whether it's 8K, whether it's just a wider screen, whether it's different formats of content, the new infrastructures are going to give us those tool sets.
Okay. Harry, you want to say something?
So I would say, I mean, IP software also helps in that sense. So one day, I mean, you can just enjoy 4K at home, and let's say there's not a new set-top box or there's not new equipment. So in that sense, I think it can also help. Again, I mean, the move from DVDs and Blu-rays to IP streaming probably also helps the environment. So I think we can find a way around that.
Well, I think we also have to look at who's watching the content, and you know, anyone under the age of say 45 isn't watching content the way we grew up watching content. It's not appointment television. It's on an iPad. It's, you know, the size of what they're watching it on. They're watching it on phones. They don't care. It seems, you know, I have a daughter in college. I don't think that she actually sits down in front of a television to watch anything. She watches, even if she's home, she's watching something else while we're watching, you know, the television. So I think that also has to come into play. It's immediacy. It's about getting content as fast as people can want, and they want to watch it when they want to watch it. This idea of having to wait till 8 o'clock on Thursday night to watch something is you know, they don't even understand what that means anymore. You know, I think my mother's the last person that stays up to watch the news, you know, or waits for the weather because she doesn't have a smartphone. But that said, I think we really have to be cognizant of how are people watching this content and what do they want? Instead of technologically, well, we can do this, but that doesn't mean that we should do this. Now, digital signage needs large, you know, 4K, 8K is all great, because if you're going to put it on the side of a building, then it's going to be it's going to be dynamic. But unless I have to put my 8K TV on my neighbor's yard, you know, I could put it on his house and then I could watch out that way, maybe. But I don't know that. So I think that you have to kind of, it's horses for courses in some case, but also at the end of the day, it's all about providing content for people who want to watch it on whatever they want to watch it on.
But I thought to watch 8K, if you had it at home, you've got to sit 0.75 picture height away.
Oh, right. So which means I'm in the driveway. So I don't know if that would work, depending on the size. So yeah, I mean, it could get to the point of ridiculousness, you know, but we'll see.
So with all the content that we're going to be creating, and a lot of it going to go over IP, we're going to be having data centers growing at an enormous rate. And there's two issues. We've got the energy, but we've also got the security. And one of the discussions that we had was customers are really worried about security. They want to make sure that they can retain their assets, which they've spent a lot of money to create. How are we going to address that in the future? And can we keep up with the hackers, for example?
I think
Do you have any comment?
So I can answer that question.
Okay,
so
Harry.
security, content protection is what we do. So I think one of your previous speakers also said that, well, we have our bank account in the cloud, so why not our video, right? So I agree with that. So also in the cloud, there's many ways to keep content secure. That's definitely not the issue. So it's true that, let's say, technology, for instance, the internet is helping pirates a lot, in the sense that you don't have to start a DVD factory. You can just put your content on the internet and everybody can watch it. So technology definitely helps. Sorry?
You can hack from home.
You can hack from home. You don't need to be, let's say, really an expert. But on the other hand, technology also helps the content owners. I mean, of course, that's what we do. So by let's say, putting video watermarks in the video, you can trace it back. So, and you can trace it back anywhere, over any network, in the cloud, over IP, in broadcast. So in that sense, technology helps the pirates, but it can definitely also help the content owners, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we focus on personalization. So data coming directly from user interactions are really very, very sensitive matter. And we work together with broadcasters and other companies, as well as security companies. And we can say there is a lot of attention on this. And today we already have the technology to make sure that even if you are using a shared data center or a public cloud where really you don't know where your data are, where your data is, you can make sure that that data are almost useless if there is a breach in the system. And you really have to make a lot of design mistakes and network design, let's say, light approaches to really expose that to hackers. Of course, if there is value there, hackers come because, and just make a distinction between hackers that crack the systems only for the sake of understanding how it works, or to, let's say, show to the community that that guys didn't do the homework. And that's really, let's say, a social function in some sense from the real crackers that really do for money and for blackmailing companies. So but there is a lot of concern, a lot of attention, and some countries are ahead of others, but other countries are catching up with laws and other approaches. So this a global approach of multinational service providers with data centers is really being managed by governments. Maybe some synergy is more needed today, and exchange information about the approaches and their results.
Okay.
And look at the broadcast industry, right? Security used to be videotape on a shelf or a SDI wire, which wasn't going to be hacked because it was point to point. When you look at the IT industry, I mean, the tools are there, right? We can leverage those tools. So when we do big global events and that security is a concern, you know, we do the World Cup, for example. And when we deliver content through the cloud to more than 20 million fans globally, security is a huge concern.
Yeah.
You know, so the best thing is look at the best practices, look at the technology in that industry. You can secure it. It's not something that is not known how to do. It's just a matter of the broadcast industry and the tool sets being done, applying that correctly.
Yeah. So is it the staff working in facilities have to have a better knowledge of where the leaks might be and improve the workflow? Is workflow an issue?
Yeah, workflow is definitely an issue. I think that, you know, best practices, how you bring, you know, ingress and egress of content into that facility, how staff interact with it, but also just the design. The core architecture and design is not a familiar one to a traditional broadcaster. So we need to help them identify and know how to build those in the best practice.
So Harry, in 5 years' time, will we be in a better position and there will be more security, or is it an uphill challenge?
I don't believe it's an uphill challenge, but also maybe there's an additional element that I wanted to bring in. What we see very much in the last few years is that content owners also realize that they have to give access to the content in a timely, cost-effective manner. You see that, I mean, we've had a couple of initiatives which were also publicized, like, for instance, Fox Studio starting an early release window project in China. So they have to make the content available. If it's not legally available, people will pirate it. But we also see that with companies like AMC. And if you know that, if, for instance, one of their hit shows is programmed at 9 p.m. in EST in the US, it's actually in the UK or in Europe, it's there at exactly the same time, which is 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. Yeah. But they don't want to give pirates any incentive to pirate it because it's available legally. So that's, I think, also a way. So I would say content owners are also getting much smarter and in a way much consumer friendly, more consumer friendly. I mean, they need to give the consumers what they want legally, otherwise they will get it illegally.
Okay, we've been talking a lot about IP and software. Let's move to hardware a little bit, Bob. I've been in this industry a while, and you know what happens. We make something, it's out of date, we make something else, so we do box shifting to a certain extent. We've got an enormous amount of electronic waste now. Can you see business strategies changing within companies like Blackmagic Design to start looking at changing modules, upgrading that way, perhaps repairing? How are you seeing the next 5 to 10 years? Because we're going to get more environmental laws.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we've actually introduced an upgradable camera, field upgradable camera. One of them is on your set right now, so that when there's a new sensor, we can remove the front mount and then put in a new mount and sensor, preserving the rest of that body. So yeah, we just as we transition to lead-free solder and things like that, we're very cognizant of environmental impact. I think that depending on, certain states have better recycling laws, for electronic equipment than others, and I think that has to become an industry-wide concern. But I think also working with local, localized.
It's all right. It's the last day.
I know, that's the problem. It's Thursday.
At this point.
I hate that. No, so, but I mean, we try to be cognizant, because we do our own manufacturing, much to the surprise of many. So we are cognizant of that. Our manufacturing plants are fairly new because we're a young company. Our most recent plant's only a few years old, but so a lot more stringent rules were put in place to do that, and I think we definitely are cognizant. And then having field upgradable hardware is something that plays into that.
Yeah. Should companies who are in the hardware business start doing more design for the environment and actually looking at what happens to the product at the end? So rather than going to recycling, come back to the company to extract various components? I mean, Xerox have done that for years.
Right, and you know, and Apple does it to a certain extent as well.
Does that affect the business model if you do that?
I don't, you know, that's not something that I'm cognizant of, but it is interesting to bring up, and I think maybe that is something that you know, we may already be looking at that, but I'm not sure. Again, our products haven't been out there that long to have that sort of impact. We really haven't got to the point where somebody's removing the old black magic stuff yet. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they're starting to do it with some mobile phone manufacturers, which is great. So
right.
less waste there. I want to bring up, are we making technology for the sake of technology, and are we actually looking at the impact of the technology? And I'm going to bring up drones. Do you think this industry for the future needs to be a little bit more conscious of what the customer's customers down the supply chain are going to do with the technology to avoid, for example, with the drones, one nearly hitting a British Airways flight last week? What's your comments on the way we're developing technology? Do we rethink about the future?
I think it needs to be cognizant of what problems we're trying to solve. Because again, sometimes I agree, a lot of companies in general, you make a technology because it looks attractive, or you think you're creating something very innovative, but if it doesn't solve a problem, or it doesn't help us progress also the industry into a positive aspect, you're also pushing an adoption of something that isn't down the right path. So it has to be mindful.
But when you look at it, like a drone, for instance, it's for aerial photography, right? So what they're trying to do is replace, say, a helicopter or something. So from an environmental standpoint, it's a lot better for the environment to fly a little drone than it is to fuel up a helicopter. That said, there have to be rules in place so that you're not flying drones all over the place, just trying to, you know, I mean, if you're out on a golf course, you're trying to shoot the golf course, that's one thing, but flying near an airport, obviously. So I think that it's more, you know, the government regulations have to be a little bit more stringent, and the idea is, you know, these things are available, but it doesn't mean we have to use them everywhere. So I think there is a little bit of, and I don't know that the drone manufacturers may have more to do with being able to, I don't know, somehow maybe restrict the way they fly or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's really designed to try and improve the aerial photography aspect. And if they're using those instead of helicopters, then to your environmental point, that might be helpful.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it was last week somebody flew a drone over Buckingham Palace, up the Shard, and the civil aviation, like the FAA, going nuts about it. So
not good.
I think one of the problems that we have is, as you've pointed out, we've got a fantastic application for drones, and we can help the environment and help energy and costs for the production. But we don't always know how customers are going to use our products, do we?
True.
No. So do you agree we need new legislation? I'll give you an example. How many of you are fathers? Okay, right. You probably have kids who are not quite using social media the way you wanted to use it. So do we need legislation and more education on how products are used?
I guess drones are a good example. So we understand that and I guess that's also very true for sports events.
Yeah.
But also even just movie sets where indeed, I mean, drones show up and with tele lenses and so on. I mean, of course, it means if something completely new comes up, somehow, if it's not legislation, at least some rules of conduct have to be established. So another example is like live streaming applications like Periscope. Okay, this is more like a social network thing where it's your niece's birthday or something that you put on Periscope, but in fact, for instance, for UFC, this is a big issue because people are live streaming events that, I mean, people are supposed to pay for. Right? So and then of course, let's say the content owners then try to fight this in certain ways and sometimes also with legal means. So it's very true that, but I would say new technology like drones are still very exciting, even for the movie makers, right? So I think we shouldn't throw the baby away with the bathwater, right? Keep the new technology, but then put some rules in place.
Here in NAB, we've had a fantastic show this week. I mean, the number of people who've come and the number of new products, it's been absolutely fantastic. Right, in a couple of words from each of you, what can you see that's going to change in the broadcasting industry in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think you're going to see a shift into much more, whether it be virtualization and leveraging those technologies to the way you completely execute your business, because I think that whether that's how you create new revenue streams of content distribution down to the consumer, whether it's how you do the actual content production, leveraging those tools in a smart way to think very differently about how you do that, and ultimately that gives you cost savings, that gives you environmental savings.
Harry.
So I think that the golden age of TV will continue very much in the next 5 years. So better content, better quality, HDR, 4K, and people also that can consume it whenever they want, wherever they want, on whichever device they want, and hopefully indeed also with measures in place to make sure that the content owners, the content creators actually benefit, and not only the investors and the producers, but also the cast members. So I believe in that.
Pancrazio.
We think that thanks to the openness of the internet and the personalization technologies, broadcasters will find a way to use the huge ability of curating content to transition from a one-size-fits-all to a one-to-one experience, and continue to contribute to the education of the society and new generations.
I mean, we've got a fantastic creative industry here, haven't we?
Yeah.
Bob.
Yeah, I definitely see that the democratization of viewing, and then also the commercialization of content. I think a lot of people are giving away their content for free for now, but I think in the future they're going to find a way to get paid for it.
Oh yeah, you can't do free forever,
No,
can
no,
you?
it doesn't work that way.
Okay. I think the hours are getting shorter because we have run out of time. I have had a fantastic week here with the various shows. I've learned a lot about 4K, virtual reality, media asset management. We had a session on gender balance. Let's try and get more women into the audience, into the business. So I want to thank my guests, James Stelflug, Harry Tolan, Pancrazio Battieri, and Bob Cornelia. I hope I pronounced those correctly, guys.
Well done.
I've had a fantastic time. I hope you have. Thanks for watching the show. Thanks for watching at home. It's goodbye from me. Stay safe in Vegas and do have a good trip home.